Hey there, you board game freaks! You want more Kickstarter crowdfunding news? I've got it for you. Well, actually, I've got every single board game campaign finishing up in the next week because this is Crowdfunding Countdown. And that's what we do here. Welcome to Room and Board. My name's Chris George, and I've got for you your weekly dose of addiction, tempting you even further towards spending more and more money on plastic toys that you may not get to play. I'm going to try to be more discerning about these crowdfunding countdowns and not necessarily be more discerning. I'm going to show you everything and tempt you with everything just so that I can make sure to really push you down and say, no, you can't have it. Which is the theme of this channel, I'm fairly certain. But let's go right into the week. We're going to cover all the games that are leaving Kickstarter and GameFound. There are none on BackerKit this week, but there will be next week, and I'll go on that tangent when it happens. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to my newest patrons. I wasn't able to give a shout out last week because I'd filmed that too far in advance, so I just want to say thank you so much to Atheep, Kat, and Michael for jumping on board and supporting the channel. You three, don't tell the others, but you might be my favorite three. Who said that? It wasn't me. No, thank you, and thank you to everybody who supports the channel. If you find value from this content and the hours and hours that I put into researching all this stuff so that you don't have to, drop me a couple bucks on Patreon. Or don't, that's fine too. YouTube is a free medium, and that's why I will put an ad every 1 minute starting right now. No, I'm just kidding. No ads this time, but a free ad goes to Into the AM because I want that code Slippery Jim to continue. Anyway, let's get into the week. We have a pretty light week ahead of us. We're going to have a little bit more next week. Usually I go until the end of next Tuesday, but next Tuesday, Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin is finishing up on GameFound, and I didn't want to cover it right now since I just talked about it in the 5 Reasons You Shouldn't Back Tainted Grail, so we're going to stop before that happens, and we will get to it in the following week's episode, so we can really see all the stretch goals that they have unlocked and analyze it from a value perspective and all that sort of stuff. But this week, we do have some games, starting off with Fateforge, Chronicles of Kaan, a mythical co-op action-adventure campaign full of surprising twists, a sprawling story, and intense fights in sessions of under 60 minutes. It's a nice tagline for sure. And this is the part where I pause recording and read all the rules and come back to you and tell you what it's all about. All right, so rulebook check. I'm doing this for all of it, as we know. Rulebook is halfway down the page, which, not great, could be at the top, but it's okay. And this is a campaign game where you are going to go through an app which will give you story scenes and combat scenes. Those are basically the two scenes that you'll go throughout the app with, as well as giving you rest scenes, which just allow you to buy stuff and heal. And they're the natural stopping points, I would assume, for the end of a game night. Should we do one more? Should we stop here? Those sorts of things. You'll get a character. Each character will start with a starting dice pool, and it honestly seems like a fairly simple game. It really is pushing this sort of 60-minute that it's a quick game and you don't really have to worry about all the setup, all the long invested time that these sorts of games take. And the rulebook is reflective of that. It's actually very simple to get through, really well written. There'll be these story scenes, which are these sort of choose your own adventure scenes, which you'll roll for a check and see if that check happens and decide who you punch in the face and which shopkeepers you don't murder and steal from. I assume, because that should be a choice in every campaign game moving forward. Do you kill the merchant and steal all of their stuff, or do you let them live and potentially bring better stuff for you to purchase later on? The first one should be an option, not that I have done that in every Fallout game that I've ever played. And then you'll get along to these combat scenes, which again are fairly simple. You're going to set up a different layout depending upon the app, and it'll tell you where to put things. You'll have these little discs that represent your enemies, and you'll have some minis that represent you, and you usually have a set number of turns, I think you have a set number of turns to get through the scenario depending on how many guards there are. And you'll roll all your dice. You'll say, okay, what's the order that we're going to want to fight in? And you can use those dice both as basic actions or as special actions if you have the right combination of symbols, which I like. I like that sort of roll and see what happens. Maybe you can pull off that cool attack and maybe you can't. And the app will also decide, depending where it is, when the enemy is going to react. So you know when the enemy is going to react, but you're not sure how the enemy is going to react, which I think is kind of cool. It's 99 euros, 99 bucks US, $133 Canadian, and it's cool. And it's doing a good job of setting itself apart from most of these other games. And I like that you're also going to get that unlock feeling. You're going to get to put stickers in the rule book and find out new scenarios, and things will change. I just don't know if I'm sold completely on what you're getting. Yes, you get these free boss miniature sets and you're supposedly saving 60 euros, especially because you get a PDF version of the Fateforge Encyclopedia, a 360-page lore book that you're not ever gonna read, right? You can also spend another 30 bucks, 30 euros, $40 Canadian to get this other expansion, which I assume, yeah, everybody is opting for versus just the base. And that feels like, if you're getting it, it feels like a reasonable upkeep. I'm really intrigued by this game and how simple it does seem to get to the table. And if you just like chucking dice and arranging them in sort of skill patterns, that feels fun. Plus, it's by the designer who did Excavation Earth, which I think looks cool. I haven't played it. After shipping, if you're in the US, it's 24 bucks. Canada, 30 euros. So really, I'm looking at 160 to get to my door, and that helps quell the desire in me. Again, if it was half that, maybe I'd consider taking a shot at it. But one would generally assume that with the smaller component count and the lack of minis that they could offer this for a cheaper price, and it feels fairly similar to a lot of other things, so probably not for cheapy old me. But if you're interested, check it out. It finishes tomorrow, Tuesday, October 11th at 11:37 a.m. Moving along to TikiTala, which is a simple strategy and memory game for 2 players. It has a very small goal. It's probably just a bunch of chips, and it's only 35 backers, so maybe I'll rethink including this in the final cut of the week. But hey, we don't have too much to cover, so you know what, TikiTala, you're probably in. Let's check it out. So usually I mute myself so I can watch the video and read the rulebook, but luckily this video doesn't have any sound. This does not look... what? Okay, before moving on, I'm gonna guess how much it costs for a bag of discs, and I bet they're gonna go for 20 bucks. Well, let's see, 35 backers at 1,000 each. That average $28 per person. So that's it. You stack a chip, you either add a new stack, you add a chip to a stack, or you move chips from a stack to another stack. First person to show 5. I mean, sure, it's fine, but they're giving you stickers for 8 bucks. Unfortunately, you can do this game for 16 cents and some masking tape if you just, because everybody has 8 chips, so 16 pennies and put some tape on it. Or you take 8 shiny new pennies and 8 pennies that have been at the bottom of a well whose wishes have not and will not come true. Then you could play this game. Let's move on to something that has been around for a long time, has raised heaps of money, and honestly, I'm pretty thrilled that it has raised so much money because I love affordable tables, and the concept of a $400 gaming table, 500 or so Canadian gaming table, is exciting to me. It is. Gaming tables are usually $1,000 or $2,000. The catch here is that this isn't a $400 gaming table. It's not. Because if you just want a table, you can just get a table. The purpose of a gaming table is to have the top racks of it, the leaflet, the topper. That's the purpose of a gaming table, because you want to have a topper that you can put over your game and put it away and save it for later when the children are screaming and you have an emergency bedtime song to sing. That's the purpose of having one of these gaming tables. And so this is from the company that gave you Lax Racks. I mean, you could have come up with a catchier name for this one instead of Ironside. But the reason it's called Ironside is because it's metal and you're laying your arms on nice, cool iron for the duration of your gaming. So let's go over why you need a board game table, because I also think that you don't ever need one. And here's the reason why. Dice rolling away. Just don't throw them like you're at a craps table going for broke. Risk of spills. Well, just have a side table where you have drinks or drink holders. Better card pickups. That's incorrect. That's a playmat situation. That's not a gaming table situation. That's if you are inexplicably able to pick up cards and you also can't slide them to the edge of the table and pick them up, because remember, you're playing on a regular table, so you don't have those walls in the way, so you can slide them and pick them up, then yeah, that's a playmat situation, not a table situation. And finally, can save your game. Well, that's right, you can save your game. That's the reason to get a table. And that also means that this is not a $400 table, because, let's scroll down to where it is, no wobbles, no worries. Most tables have that as well. Oh my god, just more pictures. Look, you love it, don't you? You better get it before we tell you that you actually have add-ons and there's an additional price rather than this baseline price that we're telling you. It's like when hotels tell you that they have a room for, you know, $70, and then you have $80 worth of resort fees as well to add on to that. If you can't figure that out, then you haven't been suckered enough. Yeah, these are the little soft armrests that you can clip on, also an additional cost. Where are the costs? See, this is what frustrates me. A giant table, a giant bag to carry your table, or 25 board games. Jeez, you're not gonna take this table anywhere. Just a Geeky Dad has a really good review. They sent him one, and so go check that out. He goes through all of what you got. Finally, we get 7/8 down the page. We are finally at the prices where they're hiding their add-ons, and this is what makes me mad. This is what makes me upset, because look, Transforming Wooden Topper, same price as the table. This is not a $399 table. This is a $800 table. This is an $800 metal table, and fine that it is, but don't call it a $399 table. Or if you're getting it just for the $399 price tag, consider getting just a nicer table from a furniture store. I'm about to blow your mind here, but it's not just board game table companies that make board game tables. IKEA makes some great ones. This table that I love that folds down and really suits my space is the reason I won't ever get a board game table, because my space is too small, really, to have one out permanently. I pull this out from the side and open it up and go through a rigmarole in order to set up so that it looks so perfect on, oh God, it's too small, it's too small. So I look so perfect on camera. No. So I look so 5 out of 10 on camera for you all. But this is $299 Canadian. I thought it was $150. It used to be, but prices have gone up. It also has these drawers that are, nope, don't want to do that. That will end in a painful break that I'll have to cut out. These drawers that I use as cup holders. This is the Norden Gatleg table, and it's fantastic. There are, I'm sure, other tables that will suit your needs if you just want a nice table to play board games on to fit a space. If you're not going for that topper, right? Tables that I guarantee you will be better than the metal feeling of the side. And I think I'm so annoyed about this because I was very excited at the prospect of an affordable gaming table. I think the affordable gaming table can exist, and I love the modularity of this. I love that you can make it a giant one, but the reason it's so cheap is because you're not getting the full thing. And the reason it's doing so well is because of that cheap price point bringing people in. And I just think it's another case of them showing you the price and then pulling the rug out from under you and actually showing you the real price. Because when you add it all up, are you getting a better deal than, say, let's go to boardgametables.com. If our baseline here is $800 for a table with a topper, I think you can get one at boardgametables.com for $1,000 maybe? Let's see. $799, but no, you still need the topper because this is what all board game tables do. So it'd be $1,200. And then they throw in again, like everything costs $1 million. Just get me to IKEA. All right, IKEA's gone out of business apparently because I can't look them up. But even let's look up Wayfair, because I know that's a furniture company that is stupid expensive. Game room furniture, sure. Games and game tables, yeah. Multi-game tables. Tabletop and board games. No, this is just stupid. They're just trying to sell you stupid things. Even this at Wayfair, for a coffee table style thing, it's a jigsaw puzzle, 27 by 35. It's probably not that, that's not that big. For $200, for 50% less though. This is by just a regular old Google search can find you options that are likely better. And hey, again, this is no shade to the Ironside gaming table. I think it looks perfectly functional. I think it's nice having a sturdy metal frame, but I also think that it is not the optimal solution like it has put itself forward to be. And if I didn't exist as the voice of reason, well, what the hell am I here for? So that's my hesitancy, that's my devil's advocate on the Ironside table. I love the core principles of the company, that they want to make a table for cheaper because board game tables are ridiculously expensive. That's fantastic, but I don't think they have done it with this. So you got till Wednesday if you were swayed and are now realizing the pitfalls and are now realizing, and it really was a revelation to me when I was like, no table can do for me. I need a board game table, but maybe not as well. And I feel fine saying that because they're not hurting for customers, having raised over $5 million, 3.8 US. Let's move on to SPARTA, Struggle for Greece, which is, what Greece has been experiencing for the last 15 years, I think. Oh, Struggle for Ancient Greece. Okay, it's different. In this asymmetrical historical area control game, 2 to 3 hours, 1 to 2 players, and a solo mode. I love its pitch. I love that it tells you everything that you really need to know and hits its target audience over the head and does not try to pull the rug out from under you and get people to purchase it who aren't interested in this thing. Way to go, Sparta. Is it any good? I don't know. Let's see. Yes, good price point. Give me that. Oh, see, here's the thing. If this link right here, if this said rulebook and it had a link to the rulebook, I would have had to take a break from filming. I would have been so overcome with emotion. Is this it though? Or is this just the Spanish version? Just the Spanish version. Damn it, Sparta. No VAT? That's huge. All right, I'm gonna get to the rulebook in a second and actually talk about the game, but I do love that there's this lovely quote here from who knows. I could do that too. I guess my favorite quote about Room and Board is this one. Watching Room and Board during that terrible house fire gave me the strength to save my children from the burning flames. Thanks, Chris, you're a hero. I should put that on my Kickstarter campaign page. I mean, I know this is somebody's symbol, but I don't know who they are. At least it says their name there and there. Raid the space, take a talent, then go home. I'll take $1, please. Successful raid completed. Here we go. All right, let's figure out how to actually play versus this nonsense. Download rules and solo sheet. It is over halfway down the campaign page. Go to hell, Sparta. You were so close. I mean, again, that's what everybody does, and I would like to see that stop. I'm making it public. Next game that has it as the first thing on their campaign page that has the rulebook, I am backing. I'm backing all in. Oh, and I just remembered we didn't check out the shipping for this project Ironside, as you can see on the screen right now. $159 at least, plus the wooden topper, therefore $220, therefore it's an $1,000 table. You know how they said it's not an $1,000 table to get to your door? It's $1,000.20. Get stuffed. Go to your local IKEA or local furniture store and you find a better option. Back to Sparta. This rulebook is inaccessible enough that anyone who could have been interested will have gone away by the page 2. But what it basically boils down to is you're gonna have 6 rounds. The game is over after 6 rounds. You'll also have a unique setup card. There'll be 8 setup cards that it gives you, so it gives you a bunch of different things. And you'll be 2 different armies, Sparta or Athens. This will be your sort of map. Every region will produce, regions are kind of outlined in the different color. Every region will produce a different amount of income, and the goal is to get the most points, have the most influence, basically have the most control over the map at the end of the 6 turns. Then everyone goes, all right, we're done fighting. Enough of that nonsense, we're moving on. The only reason why I am intrigued about it is because it seems like an average war game for £51, $59, $78 Canadian. No, it doesn't. Because you have to factor in the shipping, and the shipping is going to be $14 to the US or $25 to get to Canada. So all total to get to me in Canada, again, it's over $100. And I think I'm just wanting to play something like Twilight Struggle, and that this ain't it. This, I think, is a good quote. Honestly, judging by what I've read in the rulebook, feels like a tug of war with interesting choices in epic scale, sure. Ignore that other part, but I feel like it will feel a lot like a tug of war because the goal is controlling these regions. So every battle you fight and every siege that you fight and try to control and manage the amount of influence that you have on specific areas, that's going to be the push and pull, and it's going to come down to fighting over that last one region. Or maybe you can do a quick thing in the back and make a sneak attack. It seems okay. If you like war games or the solo game, check it out. I mean, I do really like that their tagline says, 2 to 3 hours, 1 to 2 players. If that hits your sweet spot, I think you know, and if you've wanted to get into the wargaming genre, this might be an okay one, but keep in mind the rulebook is fairly dense and it will be annoying, I think, to get to the table. But if you can get past that, there are some neat little things in there. I say neat, but it just kind of feels standard to me, honestly. And I don't really have enough experience in this genre to be able to comment one way or the other if it is going the extra mile or not. But if you're interested in that, it finishes Wednesday, October 12th at 1 p.m. Moving along to Factions of Soul. I feel like this was on Kickstarter before. Nope, first created. Guess not. Maneuver through the solar system, explore distant worlds, and lead your faction to glory in this fast-paced, asymmetric strategy game. You've got my attention. It's not a big campaign page, but rulebook is still almost halfway down. Just annoying. It's cold in space. And this one, honestly, let's put that up there. This one honestly looks pretty fun. This is a nice surprise. Basically, it's this engine builder where there's going to be 3 rounds. You're going to play as one of these 8 different factions, and you want to get the most victory points. The premise is that it's up to you to win the fortune of this billionaire who's been dying. And we don't care about that. What we do care about is the few things that make it seem interesting. I do love that the more people that move through a sector on the solar system, the more energy you're going to have to place because you're leaving out space trash anywhere you go. You've gotten to space way too early, and in order to move through the solar system, you're just hucking bits off of your ship, and everyone else has to navigate around those bits. Not only do I think that's funny, I think that's an interesting and will create an interesting environment for the board as the game progresses, and then it gets wiped and the ships move or the planets move, which is another thing that I really like in space games. If we're doing it in this planet, it makes sense for the planets to be constantly shifting, and what's neat about that is that each planet has its own special ability that you can use when you're in that planet's orbit. And I think that's really neat, because that's the reason you're going to want to go and visit all of these various planets and have to map out your path correctly and spend your moves efficiently while you try to build your engine and get more and more points and more energy so you can do more things. And of course, you have more than 5 million possible planet positions. Wow! Every game will be unique. I hate it when people hyperbolize like this. Yes, we get it. Every time you move a token, that creates a different possibility. I haven't seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness yet, but I assume that's what happens. I assume that's the whole game, is Doctor Strange playing a single board game and going, whoa! Did you know there's 5 million different outcomes for this game, Thanos? And Thanos just going, and the board exploding. But yeah, so it's $59 US, and then it's, 15 to 20 for shipping in the US, 15 to 25 for pretty much anywhere else. So for me, again, always plan for that upper level. 85 US, 100 Canadian. That's kind of what things cost with the shipping as it is. This looks to be a fun game. I don't see anything wrong with it. If you're in the US, if you can find good shipping, if you feel like it's worth it, yeah, I'd say go for it. For me, after conversion, it's again a little bit too much. I'm still not like explosively excited, but there are a lot of really interesting things that I think this game is doing. And I like that it's funded. I'm really happy that it's funded, and I hope it continues to do well. So if you're interested in that one, check it out. That finishes Thursday, October 13th at 9:59 a.m. Moving along to another space game that I think is going to be less interesting than Soul, but we'll find that out with Terraforming Mars, the dice game. We've had Terraforming Mars, we've had Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, aka Terraforming Mars Race for the Galaxy with a board, and now we have Terraforming Mars, the dice game, aka Terraforming Mars, roll for the galaxy. No, I'm not sure. I saw people actually playing this at World Series of Board Gaming. I was working 16 to 20 hours a day, so I could not play any games like I was hoping to, but I heard this one was, yeah, it was okay. So let's see how it actually looks. And I will say Terraforming Mars, the dice game, you start out, with a picture, I get it. $35, which when we get to the shipping, we'll see if that's a good deal. And then you have a little graphic that isn't very good at all and doesn't really tell me how to play the game, but then there's a rule book. So I do say you're doing fairly well so far. Only 12-page rulebook too. That makes sense because this is just Terraforming Mars with less strategy and less to complete. And this is a really simple game, simple especially if you have played Terraforming Mars. Basically, the crux of the game is going to take place in these action turns. Maybe this is a better graphic. And your actions, you get to do a little support action, then you get to do one of the main actions. The main actions have to do with raising the certain terraforming requirements, like building forests, raising the oxygen, adding oceans, those sort of things. Or, and this is going to be what's the most interesting, playing a card from your hand and paying its cost. And how you get the cost is determined if you decide to take a production turn, where you get to roll all the dice that you have in these little brown income boxes. You take them from the dice pool in the center, and you get to roll them and keep all of those resources. Whenever you're doing this action as well, you get to keep 3 resources from your previously rolled dice, and then you get to roll more as well. I think that should be switched in order to make it make sense, because when I read this, I was like, well, that seems stupid. All of your cards are going to cost 3 resources, and that's dumb. No, because you constantly get to add dice to your pool, and that's, I think, what you want in a dice game, is constantly getting more dice and rolling those dice and using them. And then on each dice, there'll be a different side. There's 3 versions of the common, 2 on the uncommon, and 1 side showing the rare, and those resources will be needed to be used to purchase the cards and to build certain actions and get certain things, and the cards let you do things as well. I think it's all going to be about creating those cards, and then, like the standard game, you can take those extra actions if you want, but it's going to be mostly focused around card play, which the video says featuring 150 unique pieces of artwork from the original Terraforming Mars game. So not unique at all, we're just taking it from the Terraforming Mars game. The beautiful artwork that Terraforming Mars is really known for. And so it's $35. If you back it, you get just a stack of promo cards. Let's see, there's 11 days, 13 days, so those, and a double-sided board, although I would bet that the double-sided board is going to be in everything, because neoprene game boards, you don't need them. Jesus. This does seem like a more fun game than I was expecting it to be fair. So it's $35, says it's going to be retail at $50, and then you have US shipping for $15. So you can get it at retail. If you live anywhere else, you should get it at retail, and you shouldn't get it in this campaign. And if you live in the US, you should probably also wait and get it on a sale. I remember when Ares Expedition happened, everyone was paying like $60 or $70 Canadian to get it, and then it was just on sale at Board Game Bliss for $20 the other day. So I don't think this is one you should get at Kickstarter, but I do think that it doesn't look horrible at all. I think it actually looks pretty decent, and for $35, which hopefully you could get it for that down the line for a bunch of dice, that feels good. If the price were $35 all in with the shipping, then yeah, obviously. But I think wait until it gets to stores if you're interested. That would be my opinion, but we'll see if this goes the same way as Ares Expedition, which it's gonna. Anyway, if you're interested in that, that finishes Thursday, October 13th at 11:01 a.m. Had to switch my mic over because my other mic died an hour ago, but luckily it records a backup on the thing, so hopefully it shouldn't have been too horrible. But we're back here with Rise and Fall, and the rulebook, like an eighth down the page, which is very great. And I'm very, very happy to see that Rise and Fall. I'll even forgive you for the, you can play up to 8 people if you buy 2 games thing that, Dutch Blitz does it, but Dutch Blitz is also a card game. And the price to enter isn't that significant. Now, the whole shtick of Rise and Fall is that it's going to take place on a 3D board. And while I like this in terms of the setup, they say for 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, right? You take 12 river tiles and then 10 more of these tiles and 8 and 6, and they get slowly less and less until you're up in the clouds. And you just place them randomly around on the board to create this map. And I think that's cool. I also think that that's kind of unnecessary and might be annoying for the setup. So that would be my hesitation with that one. Even if you do get those extra layers of board, I don't know if I would just favor a different setup that would involve different placement. You have to place it on top of specific things, right? So it's not like if you had just the tiles and the orientation out there that it would be that different with like a bunch of tiles. I don't know. This potentially gives you more variable setups, which might be worth it. And it's not going to be that long to set up. It's going to be fairly intuitive. You just throw it all down on the board and you throw them out randomly. So that's fine. And it's sort of a weird, not that intuitive scoring because you're playing, the purpose of the game is to get the most victory points, but you play until you have completed a number of trophies. Now the trophies are claimed. It's that when you play the last game piece of a given type, so there's going to be a number of different types of pieces that you can maneuver around the board. And when you play your last one of that type, you're going to play these civilization cards to be able to move them, etc. But when you play the last one, then a trophy is claimed by someone. And so when 4 trophies are claimed, then the game ends and then you score the points. So it's not necessarily a race to get those points or to get those trophies out on the board. You will gain points based around trophies, but you also gain points based upon how much economy you've generated and points as well for territories and the civilization cards that you do control. And then the rest of the rulebook is basically just detailing what each individual piece can do. The main crux of the game is going to be you play a civilization card, you get to activate whatever corresponds to that civilization card, and then you do some upkeep and potentially purchase cards. One cool element is that you get your choice of colors because they're doing a similar thing where you can have up to 8 people playing. And so you need 2 different sets. And so you can pick whichever set you want when you're purchasing, which is fun. $59 feels pretty good. $80 Canadian. But you do get a bunch of wooden meeples. And then in their deluxe pledge, you just get cooler looking meeples, which who cares? I don't. I mean, I do, but my wallet doesn't, so that's all that really matters to me. Oh yeah, here's a nicer graphic. I should have pulled this out instead of just talking about it. This should have been further up on the page. Like, I know the flashy sells, but I'd like to pioneer and revolutionize where we put gameplay. So anyway, yeah, it's $59 US, $79 Canadian, but minimum shipping is going to be $20. Therefore, it's another $100 game, which it's a tough economy. I mean, it's tough to justify that when the shipping is so expensive as it is nowadays. And it's too bad because this does legitimately look interesting. It kind of reminds me a bit of Barony, just with the different types of terrain. And also you can do sort of one activation per turn. I like that aspect of it because you're forced to make these difficult decisions of what to do when. And I find that to always be pretty interesting. Just at $100, I don't know if I'm in it for that much, but you know, it might be cheaper for you. It's just $80 for you if you're in the US, and maybe it's worth that much to you. If it is, that finishes Thursday, October 13th at 4 p.m. Next up, we have Turf War, Trick or Treat, and the 2nd edition base set. Oh, I think I remember this. Turf War, I think I covered before. Yeah, Turf War is where you are battling. That's smart, they changed the packaging. Turf War is where you're running around the neighborhood and basically building out your dirt and trying to have the best lawn while screwing over your neighbors. Yeah, so you choose if you're home, and then people can screw with you if you're home, or if you're away, then they can't, and then that lessens what people can do, but it also lessens what you can do on your turn. So this is an expansion for that game. If somebody backed that, they'll have to let me know how it was. I thought it looked okay. I imagine this expansion, $13 US, honestly, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Or you can just get it as a print and play for $5 US. This just gives you more of the same. But this time you're building up the creepiest yard on the block, which I always like. I remember thinking that this card game looked cute enough when it was out, and the fact that they've got good shipping because it's just probably being shipped locally from the US is fairly significant. $5 shipping, $28 for both together, $13. It seems like a cute enough card game, but again, if I'm buying this card game in the expansion, it's $28, it's $33, it's $40 Canadian for something that I'd want to get for you know, 20 probably. I guess 20 plus 10 for an expansion. That's kind of what you're looking at. It's not unreasonably priced at all. If you like little take that quick games that can fit in your pocket, maybe check it out. If you're interested, that finishes Thursday, October 13th at 10:59 p.m. Moving along to Ghost Love Candy 2 Roll and Fright. This is a print and play by 25th Century Games. And they sent this to me, they sent me an email where I could download it and try it out. And I thought, well, I could probably just read the rules and figure out the entire experience without playing it. Because that's often how these print and plays go, right? It's $3 for 3 different roll and write games: Tricky Treats, Haunt the Block, and Boogaloo, which should have been Electric Boogaloo and should have come in the second, but you know, you can get better 25th Century Games. I believe in you. You can improve. And honestly, $3 for 3 potential print and plays from an existing publisher that is well known and I think well respected enough that they just reprinted Raw. I think if you've gone in for any of the other roll and write games that you print at home, there's probably zero reason to not go in for this at the low price of $3. And it's cheaper than most roll and write print and play at homes are. This is $1 each, not $5 for one, as it usually is the standard. Boogaloo's pretty simple. You're collecting candy. You roll the dice, you collect some candy, you scratched out of which kid collects candy. I prefer to think of which kid you steal the candy from. And this one, Haunt the Block, is actually kind of neat. You roll a 1, and then you roll 2 dice. You choose one of them to move a certain number of spaces where you write a 2, and you continue 31 times, and you try to go around the block and get the most candy as possible. They say, did we make the first roll and move roll and write? It seems like they did. But where you actually have a choice of how much you move. That seems fine. And then Tricky Treats. It says 20 to 30 minutes, 12 plus. This is probably the one that's going to appeal to people who aren't children. You use 1 dice to collect candy, and you use the other dice to scare children. And those are the children that you're, again, collecting candy from. And I'm assuming you scare them enough to make them drop their candy and run screaming away. Rulebook halfway down the page, but honestly, I don't mind because it gives the breakdown of each thing. This is a good campaign page. This is a good price. If you like roll and writes at all, I think worthwhile checking out and worth throwing a few bucks over. None of them seem like that mind-blowing to me, but roll and writes never feel that mind-blowing to me. Even Rolling Realms, which I played recently for the first time, and I really enjoyed. Looking at the actual game itself, I think, this isn't going to be that much fun. But then when you get those combos going, that's where it starts to become a little bit more interesting. And I really liked Rolling Realms, and I think Haunt the Block might be interesting for one to play. Boogaloo is just for kids. And then Tricky Treats could have some interesting combos in it. So check it out if you want. That finishes Thursday, October 13th at 11 p.m. Moving along, we have the Stormlight Premium Miniature. I don't want to mute myself. I want to mute the computer so that I can just play the pretty pictures while we talk about it. Video contains spoilers for Rhythm of War. What? Oh my god. These are the official collectibles for every fan of Brandon Sanderson's epic fantasy series. You can get a bunch of minis and a bunch of statues because breaking Kickstarter's all-time record wasn't enough for Brandon Sanderson. They thought, you know what? I'm going to do it again by throwing out minis. Everybody loves minis, right? Let's just make a bunch of minis that you can paint. That's in my world. Why not? This is actually made by Brotherwise Games, which makes sense because they have the Stormlight archives as well. Call to Adventure, the Stormlight archives. I think that's how they probably got first a combo with Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, Call to Adventure, Epic Origins, Naming of the Wind. Oh, that's weird. I guess they never had an official one for Stormlight archives, but I know that they had a Call to Adventure for the Stormlight. There we go. Call to Adventure, the Stormlight archive. See? It's almost like I do this like it's my job. Hey, I'm thrilled for Brotherwise Games. I like Brotherwise Games a lot. I met them at Origins, and they introduced me to Night of the Ninja, which was super fun. There's a message from Brandon. Spoilers for each book. I guess it'll show you which characters are still alive. And you can get a bunch of minis, which I don't understand why this is doing so well. $30 for 6 figures. Hey, people love their minis. I get it. I can't paint, so I'm not the target audience, even with this Stormlight Learn to Paint set. I don't think I'll be getting
these at all, but they look cool. So if that interests you, I figure I might as well touch upon it because it's raised almost over $3 million. It will have raised $3 million by the time it ends, that's for sure. Moving along to the Nexus Arena Combat system. This is strange to me. They just decided to come over to Kickstarter because, but this is going to be the exact same opening video. No, why would you choose this video? This video is a bad video. Ugh. This video is just nonsense. It doesn't tell you anything about the game, and they had it on their GameFound campaign as well, and it almost put me off looking into the video entirely, and probably why there's only 9 backers over here, because it's just awful. I covered it very recently, so I just wanted to touch upon it now. Expected Q4 of 2022. They finished over on GameFound, and they were probably like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come and get some sloppy seconds, one of the remaining 500 copies of the first edition run of Nexus Arena Combat system. And this, honestly, I like this company because they feel very passionate, and they feel like they've put a lot of work into this, and they've really gone for it. I like that the rules are very close as well. I guess this is a good lesson for anyone who's just launched something on GameFound that's funded. It funded over on GameFound. It was over there for like 40 days or something. And then they're like, oh, let's get a little bit more. We can't do it with GameFound, so let's just put it over on Kickstarter, and we get 9 backers. Because it's an expensive game. That's the reason why I'm not personally interested in it. I think it looks cool, and I'm happy that they funded and they are successful, but it's also way too expensive for a beer and pretzels sort of dice chucker. Moving along to Fences, the Ranch. This is 9 new expansions for the Tile Lang board game Fences. Each expansion adds a new unique layer to establish gameplay. Literally a layer. They're going to add 9 layers until you're, higher than Rise and Fall. That's their mandate. It's not. I'm just kidding. I was intrigued by this because I hadn't heard of Fences before, but it's Carcassonne. Have you played Carcassonne before? Yeah? Well, Fences is that with different shapes. Look, they're counting up the points of a completed field. Ta-da! That's them getting points. Oh, look, they were going to make a different field with different things in it. I bet they're going to get different points because there are different animals in it. So there's different ways of scoring and different ways of combining things, which, that's a neat take on Carcassonne. So for this expansion, you basically just get a whack load more tiles. The Ranch is the expansion pack. That's what it's called. So it's $20 for the expansion pack, or it's $44, aka $60 Canadian plus shipping for Carcassonne. Does that sound like a good deal to you? Doesn't sound like a good deal to me. Look at all those tiles that, you might think were Carcassonne if you didn't look at it. There is shipping. You just pay for it right away in Kickstarter. So Kickstarter takes its 5% of your shipping cost as well, I assume. I actually don't know that for sure. That's something I should look into. Or if anybody does know, when they include the shipping on the Kickstarter price, I assume Kickstarter takes 5%, which means you're paying 5% more in shipping, which doesn't make a huge deal, but it does make a huge deal. And why would we give Kickstarter that much extra money if we could help it? Again, there's always going to be costs associated with running different pledge managers and carrying things over, so maybe the cost is negligible. This is just my sort of hypothesis, but it's $25 shipping to Canada, $60 to Afghanistan, $20 to the States. So you're looking at $64 US, $69 for Canada, aka like $90-93. And I think I'll just continue to play Carcassonne. Sorry about it, Fences. It's tough when you have something that's such a clear iteration on an already existing system. Like, I don't see how much more this will give me than Carcassonne will, And while I appreciate, looks like it's a nice production quality, and it's honestly not that bad probably if you're just getting the base game. They're not giving you an option to just get the base game though, unfortunately. So it's tough, but kind of just how it is. Anyway, if you are interested in that, check it out. The finish is Saturday, October 15th at 9 a.m. 2 more. Moving along to Encounters, the Cryptid hunting game. Collect the items you need and use them to capture monsters, keep yourself alive, or hunt your fellow hunters. All right, we'll be quick about this one. There isn't a rule book, but all you really need to know is over here, basically there's going to be some cryptids that are up, they're broken down by these red symbols. You need to play 2 of those symbols from your hand to kill them. If you do, you get to keep them. You get their points at the end of the game. If you don't capture any cryptids that round, then you take damage. If you die, you're out of the game, so it's player elimination, and then it's just kind of random draw cards and hope you have the cards in your hand to take out the cryptids, and you can pay $25 plus shipping, so $45 Canadian for this. That finishes Monday, October 17th at 12:59 a.m., aka Sunday night. Now you know what it is, and now you know that it's likely not that fun. Sorry, Encounters Cryptid Hunting game. I just don't see you being that fun. Sorry about your luck. Moving on to our last one of the round of the week, Temple of Horrors 2.0, an innovative dungeon crawler that mixes Euro and American game elements and includes 100 plus adventures. Ooh, 100 plus scenarios. Look at that. It's Gloomhaven 2.0. Better get it. I always watch through the video first and then read the rulebook and then get back to you all. But I love that it's saying a lot of miniatures. How many minis? It's like, oh, it's got all 100 plus scenarios and a lot of miniatures. There's a lot in there. How many? It's a lot of them. You don't need to know the count. Just know there's a lot. My guess is, well, okay, what would a lot mean to you? I wonder. Let's see. For me, what I think it is when it's a lot is going to be like 20. I would interpret a lot as 100 plus as well. We'll see what it is. Let's find the answer to that question right now. Rewards, miniatures, heroes and creatures. 1, 2. You can add miniatures to the base game by buying specific add-ons. That's why there's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh no, and 10 miniatures each of those. So 14, 54. All right, 54. A lot of miniatures. 54 miniatures. That's acceptable being a lot of miniatures. I'm down with that. But do you only get the minis if you buy the add-on? So is this only in the add-on? Miniatures, heroes, and creatures. You can add miniatures by buying the specific add-ons. So what are the add-ons? Hero miniatures, $20. That's where you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Minions miniatures, that's the 40 minis. And then leaders and boss miniatures, that's the extra 6. So a lot of miniatures included in the game. Actually, no, there's 0. There's 0 included in the base game. Let's be real with each other. Please and thank you. Stop with this garbage. I don't know why I'm mad today, but I am. Yes, you have your standees and you have your minion tiles right here, which is great. Honestly, I think this looks like a decent price, having not yet dove into the, a lot of hours. There's a lot of hours. Yeah, with 100 plus adventures, you don't need to say a lot of hours. I just love this way of defining things because it's like, yeah, it's a lot. And honestly, I don't care in that regard, but saying a lot of miniatures, well, no, there are zero miniatures in the base game. Let me read the rule book, and then I'll actually talk about if this is actually an innovative dungeon crawler or if it's a same dungeon crawler as to most things. A lot of miniatures. Now here's, I think, where they're trying to go for the innovative part. And it feels fun. I like this part of the game. In the combat section where you're going to roll cubes and you have to roll cubes onto this combat board. And depending where they land, so they say roll cubes. It's really like kind of throw them or flick them, but it's probably not large enough to flick. There's sort of a dexterity element where you kind of toss them and you hope that you get them into the critical hit section, but you don't hit too hard or go off the board or that sort of thing. And I like that idea as well, as you're like measuring, you have the actual physical finesse of attacking with a sword or with a bow and all that. So, okay, I'll give them an innovative. I'll give them the innovative in there. I won't give them lots of minis, but I'll give them the innovative moment. Other than that, it's kind of a standard dungeon crawler. You'll have an area and you'll have a certain scenario where you're going to have to do different things. They even say it in here. These 100 plus adventures will tell you to do something specific. Free a prisoner, find a precious artifact, kill a specific boss, find the exit, any of those things that you might do in a dungeon. And you have to therefore explore the dungeon and find those things. So you'll have your standard dungeon where you'll move around and explore and open up new areas and have to deal with the creatures that come up. There's also going to be a noise mechanic that you have in here where the more noise you make, the more creatures will be pulled towards you. Very similar to Zombicide, right? You'll have items, you can exchange items, you can interact with stuff on the board, etc., etc. All kind of standard dungeon crawling stuff, the innovative part being this combat board that they're talking about. However, as dungeon crawlers go, it's a pretty good price. Until October 10th, which is today when it's coming out, you might be able to get the early bird activated up to October 10th, so I'm not sure if that'll still be activated, but you're saving yourself $2.50, basically. For $60 Canadian, or $45 US to get a dungeon crawler that has a bunch of scenarios and not lots of minis, but in fact lots of standees. Which, who cares? The standees, I think, look just as good. Well, maybe. Yeah, they're fine. They're good. The art is fine, and you're running around the board completely fine. You still get your dual layered player board, so get over yourself. If you're looking for a standard sort of dungeon crawler that gives you a lot of replayability and variability, and you get some metal coins in it too, you don't need the minis, these very expensive minis that over double the price of the game. You can just get the base game with some metal coins for $45 US, and then shipping as well is going to be expensive because, of course, you know it will be if the price is that low. To the US, it's $30, Canada $35. That adds a lot to it. Again, this is why you always have to factor in the shipping, which is unfortunate because that is a good price, but then you're actually paying $75 to get it to your door if you're in the US, or $80 US, over $100 Canadian for a dungeon crawler to get to your door. And at that point, well, just go and get Massive Darkness 2 from the store because that one's so good. But this one looks fine, it looks fine enough, but it just looks fine. And I think the thing about Kickstarter nowadays, and the thing about games nowadays, I'm going to switch. And this is a re-recording of the ending because I had to set up a new mic and then I didn't set it up in this scene, because that's what happens when you're recording things directly through OBS. You have to make sure that a microphone is set up in all the scenes. But we didn't talk about the end date of Temple of whatever it is. That finishes Saturday, October 14th, 15th at 12:30 p.m. Whatever the Saturday is, I realized I was doing it a little bit out of order because I was in game found mode and I was associating it with Tainted Grail, which we're not going to talk about this week because we'll talk about that next week. Let's move to the pick of the week. There is a pick of the week. I went on a huge tangent about how I think we should just have great games and not just good games, but let's switch over to the pick of the week and then come back and see where I was, where I left off. And I'll try to re-say what I was saying before. Factions of Soul. I want to highlight this one as one that I think is doing interesting things. I think the moving around the solar system, the rotating planets, adding additional player powers to just spice things up, and to have an economy of movement and an economy of actions that you get to choose as you level up. I think there's a lot of interesting things happening in Factions of Soul, so I want to highlight it as the pick, and I feel comfortable highlighting it as the pick because it seems cool, and I think it seems cool. And if I had all the money in the world and was buying something every week, well, this is the one that I would spend my money on. As for my pick for you, I don't have a pick for you. Rise and Fall is an honorable mention, and Fateforge is an honorable mention. These two are honorable mentions for me, but the price to what you get ratio just doesn't feel like something I want to recommend. But these are the ones that I'm like, oh yeah, I would try it. That's the feeling that I was thinking of and why I wanted to say honorable mention. But I think the idea of, yeah, I'd try it, isn't a good enough idea to warrant purchasing something. It just isn't. There are too many really good games out there and great games out there for us to settle upon good games and potentially mediocre games like some of the fare that we see being funded this week. And while I appreciate and really feel for people trying to create something, and I recognize that the crowdfunding model requires support and requires people to invest and support people, I also think that if it isn't great, there are too many options out there for us to get to warrant spending our money, but more importantly, our time on mediocre games. I think that's what's really hitting me and has started to hit me as a reviewer, is that I'm starting to get more and more people reaching out saying, hey, review my game, please. And I'm going to have to start taking a firmer line on the ones that I actually do take and review just based upon what I can see in their rulebook and the potential flaws or the potential downfalls in the rulebooks there. Because I think, for me at least, it needs to be exceptional to warrant even purchasing. And if it isn't exceptional, go out and try it at a board game cafe somewhere. You don't need to buy everything to try it once and then just have the legwork of selling it off to somebody else. No, you can go out and you can try things, and you can be more discerning with your money and with your spending than just purchasing everything under the sun that potentially piques your interest. And I know that I am potentially a cause of this thing of having a weekly show devoted to Kickstarter and devoted to the crowdfunding space and devoted to everything new coming out. And I recognize this, and that's also part of the reason why I want to make this sort of statement now. I guess I kind of make it all the time, right? I think it's important to say, and I think it's an important reminder to hear sometimes when we get swept up in Kickstarters and we get swept up in buying the next shiny thing, to really isolate and think about how it's going to hit your table, and more importantly, the things that it's going to push out and the time that it's going to push out from you enjoying potentially the things that you already own and might enjoy more if you just stuck with them. That's kind of all I wanted to say. I think I said it better the first time around, but perhaps I was more angry the first time around in my sort of rant tangent, my ranty tanty. If no, tanty's more of a tantrum. Yeah, my ranty tanty that that we stumbled across. But I do enjoy doing this weekly thing and seeing what's out there, seeing what's being created, because it's also lovely to see people putting their passion and energy behind things and creating things that they themselves hopefully enjoy and aren't just cash grabs, or aren't just them going so far down the rabbit hole of this is the only thing I can think of to create, and not using that energy, perhaps more efficiently. It's people putting their heart and soul and creating things, and I love seeing that, and I love seeing what's out there as well. And this week had some nice stuff out there. It's just price to stuff ratio that often gets me down, or puts a pause on my wanting to jump in as well. So let me know what you are excited for, what you are actively excited for, which games you think are going to be great and not just good, because I always like to hear about that. And if any of these are going to be great, let me know. I think the past few weeks have been really nice, and this one was kind of meh, it was okay. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around. My name's Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase. I just have a ranty tanty. That's it. But I appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next video.